Yo, what is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 195. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Sup, people? Time to throw down your questions.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
Plus Ultra.
Brett Murdoch.
What up, everybody?
Brian Manjoma.
We got a full house here, Pete.
Yeah. And replacing Adam tonight, Mr. Riku-san 1, the only one.
What's good, y'all? Vita is life.
That's right. Don't tell that to Torrance, though, man. It's crazy, man. What is Torrance up to now? I saw like the cover of like the latest episode of Warzone had a Vita on it. Is he trolling you right now? Like,
no, what happened was he was actually talking about what we were talking about in the group chat. The whole know Vita thing that happened earlier in July. And then I was listening to the episode. I just hopped on the Discord and I was like, hey, what's up? And then we just started talking about that whole thing. I was explaining him, the whole blow up and, the sales of the PSP because of what happened. And basically that's happening to the Vita right now. So yeah, he just like, I guess he just decided to make that the cover of the of that episode.
Yeah, because you know how Torrance is, man. He'll do like a whole episode just to troll a single person. This is how Torrance operates. You
see the shit he did earlier this week to me, man?
Yeah.
Hey, Riku, man. We know you're trying to get your nut game up, man. Like, what the fuck?
Yo, he's crazy, man. Anyway, so this is going to be an episode that's either very short or regular length, depending on you guys. We only got 5 questions, so if you guys are in the chat room now, start submitting some shit to us, man. Gaming questions. But thankfully, I did have a couple of reserve questions, so we're good on that end. So without further ado, actually, first let me pull
Real
up.
quick, I got some vamping for you, Tony.
Yeah, go ahead and vamp while I'm doing this shit.
Have you seen the new Street Fighter card game that is coming out?
I have
Street
not.
Street Fighter board game?
I have not even. Oh, never mind. It's a board game. That's why I never heard of it. Okay, explain. What is this all about then?
I'm trying to figure out, because I wasn't super prepared for it. I want to say it's... Oh, damn it, hold on one second.
Yep, never mind then. I'm just going to start the fucking show then.
Okay, it's a board game being developed by, I forget who it is. It's a prominent podcaster, and it's being kickstarted right now. It's being brought up by a bunch of minifigs and everything like that. I just figured it might be something up your alley, and I'm a little bit surprised that you haven't heard of it.
It's a board game. That's why it's not up my alley. I don't play board games. I'm not a kid. I'm not a kid, bro.
Angry Joe.
Angry Joe.
Angry Joe. That's who it was. That's why. That's where the crossover came in.
Yeah, I mean the Street Fighter thing is cool, but it's like I'd rather just play the video game. Why would I play a board game? That
the minifigs on this thing alone are fucking awesome.
I'm gonna assume minifigs mean minifigures.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a board game guy. I don't know.
It could be a reduced sized Fig Newton.
It could be. I don't know.
Touche.
Yeah.
Or you could be into figs.
Yeah, exactly. It could be sticks.
Hey, whoa, language banning.
Yeah, he said figs, man.
Okay, well that didn't hook as well as I thought that you'd be interested, just because, like I said, alone, like the figures look super badass, and it's actually licensed by Capcom, which I found quite strange, but. Board game, guess it doesn't matter. Let's move on.
Yeah, all right, man. Yeah, again, I don't play board games. I don't have room for figures in my house, so
I just thought it might have been relevant because Angry Joe was the one pretty much pushing it, and a lot of our people out there are at least mildly aware of who that is.
I mean, that is interesting that Angry Joe is putting that out there. But my question to you guys is anyone actually a fan of Angry Joe in this channel? Like,
I never really watched them, but
me either.
I watched it. He's funny. Like I do like his little skits.
I do watch some of his reviews, especially actually like a lot of movie reviews. I watch more than gaming.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of the long format because the skits, like, either love the skits or you just hate them. I don't think there's an in between.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, with me in general. Go ahead.
Bias. He bought us drinks at PAX South.
Oh.
So I didn't meet him. so maybe I'm biased.
Yeah, you could be. Yeah, but the thing is, like, I don't have anything against the guy, but yeah, I don't like shtick stuff on YouTube. I kind of like just a person with a camera just talking. I don't really like all that overproduction-y stuff, you know. But yeah, more power to him, man. All right, let's get into it, man. So our first question here is from the Game Night 123. So he goes, with No Man's Sky next being well received and overall generally praised, does this set a somewhat dangerous precedent? Can developers now release a game which lacks content and then 1 or 2 years later present the game in a new light with features that should have been there from day one?
I think it's a difference between being well received and saving itself. I mean, despite the fact that No Man's Sky has revamped itself and rebranded itself, when we look back on this in 5 and 10 years, we're going to remember the No Man's Sky that launched, not the No Man's Sky that happened now. And there'll be an argument that happens between nerds. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a thing. But for the most part, not a lot. That ship has already sailed, or launched into orbit in this case. It's most people aren't going to go back and play No Man's Sky. A vast majority of the people who bought the game, I'd say probably at least 80% probably aren't going to go back and revisit it. And of that 20% that are going to revisit it, you're not going to get a whole lot of people who hook onto it, really hook onto it. Let's see, even half of those people really hook onto it, just absolutely love the new format. That's not enough of a fan base to reach critical mass to start bleeding over into things like YouTube and Twitch and all that kind of stuff. You're not going to see subreddits exploding all of a sudden because everybody's playing No Man's Sky. You have more interest in Destiny 2, which is generally regarded amongst most gamers I know as kind of a failed franchise at this point, than you do No Man's Sky. So yeah, there's a difference between people being like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's all right. I mean, it's pretty good, and the reception that it's getting, and the kind of reception it would get if they launched a No Man's Sky 2. Because even talking about this, transitive property in regards to other games, let's put it closer to home, and let's just say straight up, they come out with the No Man's Sky 2, and they promise all of this stuff. Like, I don't even think people give No Man's Sky the benefit of the doubt, and they're the ones that fucked it up and fixed it to begin with. So. And they have a track record of fixing it. So if anybody else does the same thing and fucks it up, they're just going to be thrown into the pit with how No Man's Sky originally fucked people over, not necessarily how they went back and fixed it later.
It's interesting because No Man's Sky is not even like the first game that really does this this generation. Remember Street Fighter V? Same deal. As it exists now, it is a complete game, but it should have been that way since day one, But it's a different story. Like the guys who stayed with Street Fighter from the beginning never left it. Those guys are the hardest of the hardcore. But guys like me, I gave it a shot and I was done. I was like, where's the game? There's nothing here. Now they have everything that I wanted, but it's like too little too late, guys. Sorry. You got to get that shit right the first time. I'm sorry. I'm old school, man. Remember when games used to come out complete? You got to do that.
Okay. It's at the end of the day, we're talking, and this is what's really important. We're talking a multiplayer aspect. So if their business plan was to really come out, disappoint 90% of their fan base, make a bad name for themselves, drive away almost all of the people playing the game, and then open up multiplayer, that's a fucking stupid way to go about it. Yeah, great, you opened up multiplayer. There's nobody playing your fucking game anymore. I mean, that's a problem with healthy games when their population starts to dip. You only get the super hardcore and then empty servers. So the fact that they opened up multiplayer well after the, I get that this was one of the biggest overhauls, though. I think, Tony, that's why you're hearing a lot about this game, is because, yeah, this is one of the biggest overhauls and most ambitious overhauls to a failed game that's ever happened. And a lot of people are shocked because they're like, wow, this game pretty much just fell straight on its face, and you guys still put in the work. And I guess that's to be respected. But as I said earlier in an earlier podcast, just because you fix your problem doesn't mean you deserve, or the problem that you created doesn't mean you deserve a fucking medal for it. You can't go starting fires and then be a hero when you pull a burning a baby out of a burning, blazing building. That's not how it works. So you guys fucked up and you made it right. That puts you back at neutral. It doesn't give you fucking brownie points. And I don't think anybody's. I mean, maybe I'm in the wrong here. Is anybody actually really just being like, dude, No Man's Sky is the shit? Those guys should be proud of the work that they put in. I would absolutely support them as a gaming company, here in the future.
Oh, I've seen this. I've seen that on Twitter, especially from gaming journalists. They're saying that,
Well, gaming journalists are gonna bend over backwards to suck the dick of this company just because they want to high road everybody else. Like, I get it as a games journalist if you're like, wow, they're doing something that really should be respected, but that's your job to draw attention like that. Like, as a personal, and this is where I'm torn. Like, I do have to give kudos to the company. You didn't give up on your dream. You didn't give up on your promises. You ended up delivering the product that was delivered. But that was literally, in my opinion, the bare minimum you could do after such a spectacular failure of a launch.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you guys think about? Do you think this game's going to set a bad precedent moving forward?
No, I don't think anybody wants the the bad publicity that followed with the launch of the game and just the missed promises. Like Sean Murray doesn't want to be Sean Murray right now. I doubt it. You know, like
Yeah.
they went dark. He doesn't like make any press releases. All the white paper and stuff is released officially through Hello Games, and it is in the game and it's released to the major publishers, so they put it out, and that's it. Nobody's making the rounds, nobody's doing any media. You know why? Because he made himself look like a jackass. Nobody wants to do that. Like, and if they do that, you are like, that game is gonna fail immediately. Nobody's gonna come back. So the precedent here is don't do that, right? And this is an No Man's Sky is an anomaly, right? I don't think you can set the bar where it's like, well, we're going to release this game and we're going to overpromise and underdeliver. But don't worry, wait a couple of years, and it will be everything you wanted. No, you can't sell that.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you. Like, this does set a precedent that, in effect, like, don't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, the game's getting like praise and all that right now, but and I know that the game's actually back on Steam again. People are actually buying the game again, but you know, yeah, it's just like if you come out the gate with a shitty game that everybody gets. I mean, not shitty, but you know, a subpar game, and everybody gets mad, and then you fix it later. I don't think you want that kind of publicity. I agree with you on that one. You know, so. Hopefully, it is a learning experience, as they say. You know, it's like, get your shit right the first time, man.
And see, they weren't alone in the stuff. Like when they came out with this stuff, I don't think the Elite Dangerous Horizon expansion that happened where it allowed you to planet land and run around. But Elite Dangerous did that, so it's like you're not the only kid on the block, and Elite Dangerous is doing all of this. So why wouldn't people just play that and not, your bullshit, or wait for you to get it right? And then the next guy who does that, somebody else is going to make the game that keeps the promises, and again, you lose out. Like if you expect everybody to wait around or buy into it when you're like 2 or 3 years past when you're supposed to deliver, it's not going to work.
Daisy.
Tay.
But and this is my ignorance, has Daisy even launched yet? Officially? Like version 1.0?
No. And that's mostly because all the imitators and clones beat it to market, H1Z1 being the most notable among them. So that was actually so far behind that the market looked at exactly all the promises that the game was trying to make and went, we think we can do this and get out there before them. And they did. And I don't think Daisy ever actually left early access because everything rushed on it so fast and bled it out from the inside. At that point, there was a fair amount of animosity, too, because, and maybe this is relevant. Years after the game had been promised and after a working beta had essentially been delivered, they were still tooling around with the game and still not able to deliver on the promises that they had made. So everybody, myself included, who had bought into it, I pretty much just lost faith at that point. So even if they had come in and finally delivered everything that they had wanted, you could look at the Steam pages and be like, okay, so you finally made a game that you had a 3-year leg up on everybody else from developing that was already made off of the back of a game or of another game that was pretty much functional and working and fun. And to get it from that point to finished release, 5 other games started from the ground up, fully tested, bug hunted, they're glitch free, and they went from nothing, from an idea in somebody's mind to fully in market released before you even managed to get there. Like, at a certain point, you just lose faith in the leadership and the development of a studio. Because even if Daisy had come out and been an amazing game, dude, these 5 other teams did what you did in 5 years, and they did it in 2 years just as well. So even if your game is awesome, you're the last one to the party. You were just the first one to RSVP. So I think that's a big thing in the gaming market, especially like I feel like companies look at what other companies promise, not necessarily what they deliver on, but if they promise something and everybody hypes up for it, they're going to start trying to deliver that thing. And then if the other company does or does not deliver, that's pretty much irrelevant. So that's you actually see a lot of innovation start off as the idea of kind of copying somebody else's idea, and then take it a step further, and then the people who originally put it out, it just falls out of its face, and eventually you see a product come to market. Sometimes you see two products come to market. That's why you have like Prototype and Infamous. But they went in vastly different directions, and Prototype fucking died as a franchise. Infamous stuck around a little bit longer. So I think it's just kind of the way of it.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead. I insist.
No, I insist. Nah, I'll go.
Uh-oh, we're gonna get into this shit now.
The I insist.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? Fuck both of you guys. Brian, go ahead, man.
Brian, go.
I do think that they do deserve some sort of credit for sticking around this long because, like, it's again like the other side of the coin is that they could have just said, okay, you know what, we made a bad game. It's got so much bad press. Let's just bury the game and move on. But instead, they stuck around. They kept updating the game as time went on. They kept things very quiet, and they finally got to the stage where the game is what they mostly had promised when they had first talked about it. So they do deserve some sort of credit for that. However, the fact that it went so badly and the fact that it left a bad taste in everyone's mouth for however many years it was out for, I think that is why people will not see this as a present of like, hey, you know what, we can release our games half done and then just update it as time goes on, because I don't think that any game wants that stigma for that many years of being, oh yeah, it's a game that over promised and under delivered and just bad. So I don't think that people will see this and start to release the games half finished in order to follow the precedents. I think they'll just see it as like, oh, okay, you know what? Let's not do what No Man's Skies did, and let's actually try to release a full game at launch. Then that being said, this is kind of like how most games are in the first place, in that they will just release a game with partial content and then just add on DLC as time goes on. So, for example, this like the Destiny games, like they literally just release the bare minimum of what a game is, and then just say, hey, you know what? Hey, here's some content over the years. But then even then, like Destiny still has that stigma. And in terms of No Man's Sky not being played, I just had a quick look at the Steam stats right now, and currently it's sitting at 55,000 players being playing the game, which for comparison's sake makes it, I think, what's that, the sixth highest played game on Steam at this moment in time. And also I'm looking at the Twitch streams as well, and it currently has about let me just refresh really quickly as I lose the page. Oh wow. Currently has 6,500 viewers, which is quite a lot. I think that's making it the make it the 19th highest watched stream at the moment.
That is shocking.
And for comparison's sake, Destiny 2 has 12,000. And for even greater comparison, Warframe has like just over 2,000. And so does Monster Hunter. So that just lets you know like where it stands. And also, Chris, Horizons came out about 9 months beforehand.
Okay.
Well, 8 months, but still, yeah.
Now, do you think that's the same on the console? Because I know that PC players generally have radically different gaming habits in terms of how a game ages and how long it stays playable. Do you think it's the same on the?
No idea.
Yeah, Twitch doesn't
no one has any
differentiate.
numbers.
Yeah, Twitch doesn't separate them.
So, in terms of possibility, I don't think so. As again, the thing with console gamers is that they tend to just play a game and then like after it's no longer in the zeitgeist, it gets dropped. Then of course people that would like recurring because they like the concept or they were waiting for it to be good. But in terms of the mass people that bought it in the first place, I think that they just played it for however long they did, and then they just are not coming back to it. Like what Tony says.
Yeah. All right, Carlos, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it sets a bad precedence because it's like they're releasing what's supposed to be a complete experience, and we don't get it till 2 years after the game comes out, like it's just not good for the consumer. Like it doesn't give an incentive to people to buy the game when it comes out. If they do that, their next game, it's like whatever Hello Games comes up with next, it's going to be like people are going to just wait for 2 years till it comes out, or a year after, or whatever. Because it's like, what's the point of buying a game? I'm not going to get duped again. So yeah, they can real quick. They can have their Twitch numbers and their Steam numbers right now, but the only reason why they have those is because this game did get a lot of hype, and there was a lot of early adopters, and now they're just getting their money's worth. But next time, who knows if people are going to buy in as quickly as they did now.
I got a question for you. Would you feel the same if they had been upfront about what was actually going to be released at launch, but then followed that up with, we're going to continue to support this game for 5 to 7 years, adding new content and, you know, new core gameplay elements as we go. These are the things that are on the roadmap. They're definitely not going to be a launch. Like if everything was transparent, would you be okay with them adding? Because personally, I'm okay with them adding content to a game, even expanding the core gameplay experience, as long as I'm not getting shortchanged on the front end and they're upfront about it. So I'm curious whether you guys think that it's the business model of adding content to a game as its life cycle continues. Like you don't find that to be the problem, right?
No, and the answer is no for me. If they're upfront with what they're trying to do, and I feel the game that comes out justifies the purchase, then I wouldn't really be mad if they decide to release content afterwards. Like the perfect example for me, it might not even be perfect because they did promise this, but what's it called? Call of Duty, not Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. They said that Heist was going to be with the game, but they didn't release with it. But the game, to me, even without Heist, was still worth the $60. So, and then they release content every so often for 5 years now. So I think that's an example of a game that kind of did it right. They still lied to an extent, which they should get points deducted from them. But like even adding to that, I think the price of that game was still justified in correlation to the experience that I had.
Yeah, Riku, go ahead, man.
Alrighty. So basically, what I want to say about that is this is No Man's Sky stuff, right? So it's been 2 years, right? Somewhat, give or take.
Yeah.
And it's blowing up right now. So the two you did mention Street Fighter, Tony, and that is a good example as far as a recent game that released on PlayStation 4, and you know when it came out, it was not what it was supposed to be, and then over time, they turned it into something that people debatably can consider a respectable game now. But it was one other game that I think did it, and they bombed probably even harder than Street Fighter V when they first came out, and I felt they made even a bigger comeback, and that was Final Fantasy XIV. If you remember that whole shit, where
that's right.
They re-changed the name to A Realm Reborn. So as far as those two games, as they're like probably in like the past 10 years, as far as on PlayStation consoles, being games that when they first came out, they were fucking garbage, and to the point where they basically had to revamp the whole entire game and put something, sometimes even put an extra thing behind the name to let people that drop the game know that this is A Realm Reborn, or what are they calling this? No Man's Sky now? No Man's Sky Next?
Yeah, Next.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think it's going to be a trend because it happens rarely, and I definitely don't think this is going to be, you know, any developer is going to see this as, oh yeah, look what No Man's Sky did. We can do it too. Because regardless if it's Street Fighter or Final Fantasy XIV or No Man's Sky, just like all you guys said, a scar is a scar, and it'll leave it on that game and that franchise for years to come. It'll hurt its sales, but when it came to Final Fantasy 14, the thing about Final Fantasy 14 is, the whole subscription base. It's an MMO, so it was able to make a comeback and impress people over time because when you get in there, you're supposed to stay in there and all that stuff. When it comes to Street Fighter is a competitive game. It's got the FGC behind it, so that was able to bring itself back because of the FGC also. But when it comes to No Man's Sky, not being really a competitive game. And I've been hearing some stuff about the co-op. I heard it's good, but there's still some things that they could do. Yeah, it's a real iffy with that one. I don't see any. It's a really bad move to try and even consider making such a bad move, because all you're doing is hurting your month one sales, which we all know those are probably the most important sales that you could possibly get. After that, that's when your game goes on sale, PlayStation Plus, bargain bin, and you really ain't gonna see none of that money with all of the work that you probably did to revive your game anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. All right, man, let's move on. Oh, go ahead. Last thing. I mean, yeah, I guess we could go on a little longer since we didn't get too many questions. But Richard Bailey Jr., we will add yours, my friend. Don't worry.
I just want to put a fine point on this. Would anybody on this panel be willing to put $50 down right now, here today, betting that when Red Dead 2 releases, it will release with its full suite of online content on release? Does anybody feel strongly enough that that's definitely 100% going to happen, that you put $50 down on it?
No, but it doesn't really matter for that game,
No, it doesn't. But here's my point. If Rockstar, one of the biggest and most successful publishers in our lifetime, can't wear off that stigma over 5 years, why would No Man's Sky be able to? Because we all love Rockstar, but we're not getting. I love Rockstar, but I'm not giving the benefit of the doubt. I don't know that for a fact that they've grown beyond all the problems that they had with GTA Online. So the stigma of their failure of GTA still haunts them, at least in my opinion, as a consumer, to this day. And I'm gathering at least a little bit for just everybody on the panel here, because nobody would want to take that bet. So, if Rockstar just can't walk away from its stigma, being the company that they are with success after success after success, I mean, they're a fan favorite. Why would anybody else have the power to just be like, oh, I'm just going to let the stink of this franchise wash away? I mean, that's pretty much proof positive that it doesn't in the eyes of gamers. Gamers remember.
So I heard a bet and my ears perked up, but I didn't really listen to what the bet was.
Of course. I said, would you be willing to put down $50 today that says when Red Dead 2 releases that it will definitely release with its full suite of online content?
That they promised, or that they promised for release, or
yeah.
Ooh, that's a good bet. I would say no.
Here's the thing: did they even promise? The question, the main question is, did they even promise that any online?
Well, do we even know anything about this
Yeah,
game?
that's the other thing. They haven't promised.
They have officially not made any promises.
Yeah, we assume it's gonna have online. We don't know if it is or not. It probably is.
We assume there's gonna be bears and horses.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you don't know yet.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, it's not like like other studios were like, yeah, we're gonna have online, we're gonna have heist, we're gonna have all this stuff. They haven't said a damn thing.
Red Dead Redemption.
My only point is that if Rockstar can't limp off a failure like that, I don't see any company being able to, because it wasn't even a huge failure. It didn't ruin the game. It didn't make everybody be like, God damn it, I wish I didn't buy this. It was a mild to annoying frustration for most people. And yet they still remember. Like, nobody here has full confidence that they'd be like, yeah, it's gonna come out. Like, and that may be it. Maybe they haven't promised anything, so they can't be like, we didn't promise anything. But I still feel like when we think about Rockstar, we, and their next game, we still kind of think back to, man, the last game they had some hiccups. I'm gonna remember that going into this one. So I don't think the No Man's Sky would be able to get people to forgive its shortcomings if it didn't try and fix them.
But people have short memories. I mean, that was 5 years ago versus 2 years ago.
Can I be honest? The only time I remember that GTA 5 didn't have an online at launches, whenever Brett brings it up, I always forget that. I completely forget. Like, it's so irrelevant now, to be honest. Yeah. And also, Rico, I'm glad you brought up that point with Final Fantasy 14. Motherfuckers really forgot about that game. That first launch was a disaster. No one talks about that anymore. Very
They
interesting.
branded it as a new game, which was the smart thing to
Realm
do.
Newborn.
Yeah.
Realm Reborn. They legit. So it was that title was legit saying, yeah, we basically killed our last game and it was our fault, but we have reborn it and brought it back. To
Reborn did.
Brought it back to you guys. Please give it a chance, and they did, and it was like, okay, look, this is a good game now. But I mean, wait, someone answer this for me. Was when Final Fantasy 14 came out, was it just an MMO game, or was it like a retail game that you could buy with $59.99 price on it?
Oh, that's
You could buy it box, or you could buy it online. I played
No,
it when
no,
it
but
first
it was-
came out.
It was an MMO.
Yeah, it was always an MMO.
and
Yeah.
It was trash. Oh my god. I haven't gone back and played a Realm Reborn, but I remember the original Final Fantasy 14. It was so horribly trash. It had like no PvP elements to it. It was a half-baked game, and it was not only super grindy, but it forced you to be able to like basically be in a group to get anything of relevance done.
It was right on the coattails. It was right on the coattails of 11, because 11 was such a big hit, and they just thought they could release this half-ass shit, and we're like, nope, no, you can't.
Well, even at the time, like they realized that they had moved away from the Final Fantasy roots, and so they kind of were portraying it as more like, oh, you remember, like, here's your black mage. This kind of feels like more like the old Final Fantasies with the, it's not quite so. I don't even know what you'd call the style of the new Final Fantasies, but it had more of that kind of fantasy aspect to it. They're like, you can play a mage and cast Fyra. Remember these? And you're like, yeah, okay, cool. And then you got in there, and basically it's, yeah, like you would spend forever just standing around the city trying to get a group, and then you finally get a pickup group, and the game was punishingly difficult. Like it was almost like running a raid all the time, and so progress was super slow, and it was super Japanese in its grinding, and so it was very inaccessible and very very, 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 very grindy. And I've heard great things since they've rebooted it, but I do remember playing it and be like, I'm gonna play a black mage, and like 8 hours later, I'm like, this game is trash.
Yeah, man, fuck that game. All right, I want to move on to the next question here from Black Metal Gamer. So he goes, his first one is, why do I have a feeling Terry Crews's character in Crackdown 3 is the modern day cringe equivalent to Bubsy? So that's how he sets up his question. So he goes, what mascots do you find awful or cringy growing up or right now in gaming? All right, hey, Rico, why don't you start us off? What do you think are some of the most cringy video game mascots of all times?
Of all times? Fuck. Other than Bubsy. Let's see. Fuck.
If you need time to think, we can come back to you.
Yeah, I
Man.
definitely need some time to think on that one. Mascots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about you guys?
I fucking hated Spyro.
What?
Oh,
I'm sorry. I don't even have a good reason.
Rolling in his grave right now.
I didn't even have a good reason other than I think I just hit me at the wrong age. But like, yeah, like I never. It's like I do not.
You
get
like
this
Crash?
Spyro bullshit. Like Crash is all right.
Because he doesn't talk.
No. When I say Crash is all right. Like I mean that very like middle of the road. Like Crash didn't really bother me. Ratchet and Clank. Same.
But how did Spyro bother you? What did he do?
I don't know, man.
he doesn't like Elijah Wood.
He doesn't like talking dragons.
It seemed excessively cartoony.
Wait, do you have something against talking dragons?
No, I love dragons. Okay. That's the weird thing. I have no reason to hate Spyro other than the fact that I was like, this is some kiddie bullshit right here.
You don't like dragons.
No, I love dragons. I'm being perfectly honest. I said I have no reason for this, but like it's the only thing I can think of is like I don't know. Video game mascots are super homogenized. There's not really anything you can super dislike or hate about anybody.
Okay, I think I found one. I think I got one. Let me say this one real quick, Carlos. Fucking raving rabbits. The Ubisoft.
Oh, those things.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fuck
those are like the
guys.
minions of fucking video games.
Yes,
Dude, they're hilariously retarded though.
No, they're hilariously retarded, and I fucking hate them. Because if it weren't for them, we would get more actual Rayman games.
Thank you.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah, I like
Fuck those
Rico's rage.
motherfuckers, man, 'cause
Did they even start? They didn't even have anything to do with Rayman. Did
Yeah,
they?
they did. Yeah, they started
did.
on Rayman. Yeah.
Started in Rayman.
Yeah, they were supposed to give us Rayman 4. They said it at the end of Rayman 3. See you in Rayman 4, and then the next game we fucking get is Rayman and the Raving Rabbits on the Nintendo Wii. And I don't fucking know why that game sold, but I guess it sold well enough for Ubisoft to be like, you know what? These rabbits deserve their own type of stuff. And they started throwing it in Mario, and I think they made a Raving Rabbits 2, and I was like, where's Rayman 4? So what?
Rabbit's got a cartoon, man.
Yeah, they did.
That's how popular it was.
By the way,
Even
before
Rayman didn't get one of those.
Rayman didn't get a cartoon.
By the way,
they are just basically minions.
Yeah,
they're
minions.
basically
They're
rabbit
minions.
minions.
Yeah, they're minions. By the way, before we move on, because Seth is yelling about this now, he wants us to define what a video game mascot is.
I would just say
They
that.
used to sell the system.
Yeah,
Well, no, well, that's a different.
I would say the face of a, as far as video game mascot, the face of a franchise or video game company. So Sonic, Mario, even the Raving Rabbits. If it is the cover, boy, girl character of that said franchise, that can be considered a mascot.
Right. I think
like who? When you think of Konami, who do you think is the mascot?
Snake.
There you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
doesn't have to be a little joy, happy Sonic. It could be a fucking,
I'd call Mega Man a mascot.
Mega Man is a mascot. For sure, he's a mascot. Here's my thing, though, because maybe I'm reading the question wrong, because I'm taking it as like a cutesy character. But then again, he brought Terry Crews, who is not a cutesy character.
Yeah.
But
well, according to the guy that objectified him, yeah,
Oh,
he is a cutesy character.
Damn, I'm not touching that one, bro.
Not touch that one, man. Like for Microsoft, Master Chief is their mascot, right?
Yeah.
For all intents and
You could say he's the mascot of all of Microsoft. Yeah.
Well,
Earthworm Jim could be a mascot. Yeah, he could be a mascot. Earthworm Jim, sure.
You want me to throw a knuckleball into this whole Microsoft thing, Microsoft/Halo thing?
What's up?
Cortana's a bigger mascot than freaking Master Chief now.
That's a fact.
Yeah, they're definitely.
She's your computer now.
Yeah, she transcended past fucking Xbox. She's in your fucking laptops and shit.
Windows 10 now.
I got her on my phone.
I got her on my fucking laptop. I don't even want her here.
But who are some annoying mascots? I know there in the 90s there was a ton of them.
Well, I don't.
There's
I wouldn't
Plock
say-
was a horrible one.
Who?
Plock.
You mean
So
it's getting
bad
nightmares.
you never heard of that
Yeah.
fool. Horrible game.
Does Knack count?
No, I don't think so.
Sony tried to make Knack a mascot,
Yeah,
but
because companies can have a mascot too for publishers, like we were saying, Konami and stuff. So
yeah.
if you count one that was annoying to me was Gex. He was so
Really?
stupid, right?
You didn't like Gex? Well, I didn't.
I didn't
really know
because it's
Gex.
let's dress him like James Bond. Now he's a spy. No, he's not. Shut up.
By the way, I want to give a shout out to Kristen because Sonic.
Nah, listen, man. Kristen.
Sonic in the.
Hold on, I'm stopping this show right now, son.
Hey.
I'm stopping this show right the fuck now,
What's going
son.
on? What's going on? Explain.
Kristen is our moderator here, but I'm now thinking about taking that privilege away. I hope she's trolling right now. You are not
What did
seriously
she say?
saying Sonic the Hedgehog is an
Yes.
annoying mascot.
If we're talking about the one that talks, yes.
Ooh.
If we're talking about the one that doesn't talk and keeps his mouth shut,
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Kristen, forgive me. I got mad at you for a second. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with her? Talking Sonic with the green eyes. Yeah. I'm with you. Sonic with the black eyes as my homie. He don't talk.
Sonic that
fast. He doesn't say shit like that.
Can we call
Sonic
him?
that falls in love.
Yeah. Can we call him Sonic?
Sonic.
Yeah.
I'm more interested what some of your favorite ones are.
Well, before we do that, I just want to mention, it's not that this mascot is annoying per se, but it's kind of really cheesy. And I don't know if you guys would consider this a mascot, but I'm gonna say the Wii Fit Trainer. She's in Smash Brothers, so it's kind of like a mascot. She transcends more than one game, and I'm like, really, this kind of fucking cheesy.
I'm gonna be an asshole right now. You know who's a cringy mascot?
Oh shit! Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
No, you won't. Trust me. I'm gonna fuck you over right now. Triforce.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Oh,
Yo, man,
man.
you go in there, man.
Oh God, I had to do it. I had to do it. Oh God.
I was gonna say Reggie.
Well,
God, there's what was the fucking time controlling cat that Microsoft
Blinks. Oh,
Blinks.
don't say that.
You leave Blinks alone, we
Milo.
gonna have some motherfucking problems. Blinks is the mascot that should have been Microsoft's like Super Mario, but Microsoft didn't want him.
Andy was created by the guy who created Sonic.
Oh, really?
Yuji Naka?
No, the other guy.
Oh, look,
Look
I
at
don't
that.
know who the other guy
There's
is.
there's two guys. There's two people. There's multiple people that created Sonic, but the original guy who created it, Sonic, was this guy, not Yuji Naka.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't have any experience with Blinks the Cat, so I can't say one
That's
way or
probably why I
another.
like Blinks Cat.
What about
Hey,
Walk?
Hey, he looks like he fits in a Sonic game, right? He's got those big white gloves and attitude.
Well, I mean, the '90s was full of clones. You know,
90s had a bunch of characters with big white gloves: Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse, fucking Super Mario.
like Klonoa.
Everybody had white clothes.
Sonic like that. And the freaking Arrow the Acrobat.
Oh, I remember
God.
that. Yeah.
Do you remember Bubsy?
Yeah,
I know
that's
someone-
what inspired this. That's what inspired this question.
Yeah.
He wants us.
Bubsy is the worst.
Yeah,
I know someone that
he
I know
wants
someone
us
that-
to name a. Yeah, he wants us to name a character equivalent to Bubsy. You know.
Oh, does it get that bad? He was like the bottom of the barrel,
Yeah.
man.
Anyway, Rico, what were you saying, man?
Oh no, as far as like mascots, people thought were cringy. I had a friend that thought fucking Pac-Man was cringy. I'm like, what the fuck?
Pac-Man
I mean, I know
doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
I know. I was like, what does he do to piss you off? He's like, he just goes waka waka. I just hate him. I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, but
It's like he hates a pizza with a slice cut out of it.
yeah. It's like, I mean, Pac-Man is basically considered the.
Whoa.
Whoa!
Sorry.
Whose phone was that? Damn.
That was my phone. Sorry. Yeah, he's basically the mascot of Namco, right? Pac-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys remember? This may be too old for some of you. Remember the shitty Nintendo product advertisement, like the Cool Spot game or the Noid game?
Oh shit, I
Well,
remember that.
But those are product
those are-
crossovers.
Yeah.
I mean, the Noid is really Domino's mascot. You just got put in a game. That's no better. Like Burger King made a series of games on 360.
Sneak King.
Sneak King. Yes, but the King is Burger King. You know, he's a restaurant mascot. He's not a video game mascot. So I don't think Cool Spot would count any more than he would. Neither
But-
would Ronald McDonald. You know, and he had games.
Yeah. By the way, Chief told me. I think he's asking us about David Cage, but I think we talked about that like last month. If that's what you're referring to, you know. Anyway, Barry Burns says Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel versus Rocky Rodent. Man, you know. All right, I think that's enough. Go ahead.
I was just thinking on the PlayStation side, are there any cheesy / forced? I don't know. I guess they might have tried to do it with Knack, but it just failed. He was never a mascot. No, that's it for me.
Yeah. All right. You know what, Chief? I'll add your question. I'll throw that in a little bit later. All right. Next question from Mr. Black Metal Gamer. What upcoming 2018 games do you think will flop?
We already called this. Remember, we said the third installment of a Uncharted-esque game. Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
Yep.
Do we think that's gonna? I don't think that's gonna flop though. I think it's gonna do well in the end. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna do. Like,
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, you know
yeah,
what
it
I'm
might be
saying?
an initial flop, but it'll like pick up once. Yeah, I think you're right. Never
Yeah.
mind.
So yeah, because flop is like forever flop. That game, if it's like the other two Tomb Raider games, it's gonna pick up. You know.
Oh, if that's what we're defining flop as, I'll throw Anthem out there. I don't think we're going to see an Anthem 2.
Oh shit!
Oh,
Really?
yeah. No, yeah, I think I agree with Brett.
Does Anthem? even
Anthem,
come out?
Anthem ain't coming out this year though.
Oh, he said
Well,
2018, right?
2018. Yeah. No, 2018.
Yeah, the rest of the games for 2018, they all look really promising.
They're pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I,
I
think
mean-
too.
Well, a lot of them are really safe bets, like
Yeah.
Call of Duty, Battlefield,
Spider-Man,
Red Dead
Dragon
Redemption. Spread. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think there's not like Anthem. If Anthem came out later this year, then yeah, I would agree with Brett and Chris, because I think Anthem is just one of those games that has a really low like floor when it comes to like it seems like it's like a high ceiling, low floor type of game. Like it could either be like a huge success or just a huge flop. But the games that are coming out that are slated for 2018 that are kind of big, like Pokemon and Smash, none of those are really gonna flop. I don't really think so. The one that would come closest is Tomb Raider, but like Tony said, I don't think like post release the release window I think it'll just pick up like it usually does.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think any game that's coming out at the end of this year is going to be like a big flop, to be honest. You know, like you said, they're all safe bet games. You know.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be doing holiday releases, and holiday releases in general are kind of their just bigger games.
Yeah, even a game like Fallout, I don't see that flopping.
Even a game like Fallout.
Yeah, like Fallout. Fallout might be like
I'm just being a dick.
Oh, well, like just to clarify it, like I think Fallout might be like the 10th most popular game to come out in the second half of 2018.
No, it's probably the least popular among the bunch, which is really weird because a lot of people I know are really excited about it. And pretty much,
yeah,
most people I know that like Fallout, and Fallout is it is a huge franchise, and there are a lot of people that are very fervent about their love for Fallout. So I'd almost say Fallout as a brand is one of the more iconic gaming franchises. So to say it is the least popular amongst a handful of games really speaks to the quality of the competition.
Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned, Fallout has a huge fan base, and like they're really, really dedicated, like hardcore fans. So I think those fans, and I include myself in that, will support the game.
Yeah, it's actually weird because it's the first time I've heard. I knew I had a bunch of friends who liked Fallout, but now I'm already hearing like you go up to the bar, and I rented like 4 or 5 people that like, you playing 76, you doing 76, all right, man, I need to make sure to get your PSN name because we're all gonna bring the hammer down on this motherfucker. I'm like, damn, like I know probably 16 people that have already been like, dude, we playing Fallout? Like this is like that's
Yo,
like
Brett.
GTA numbers, man.
Yo, Brett,
What's up?
are we playing Fallout? That's 17.
We're playing Fallout.
All right. Any other games coming out this year that you think are going to flop?
Think of any.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't.
Yeah, Crackdown's not coming out.
Yeah, exactly. I want
Crack
Black.
who?
Yeah, I want Black Metal Gamer to answer his own question. Like, what games do you think are going to flop, bro? You know.
He's like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh.
Well, some people are saying Spider-Man's gonna sell better than God of War.
Potentially, because it is Spider-Man.
Surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, like that wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't take that bet because Spider-Man has such brand recognition. Like I mentioned, he's like the 3rd or 4th most recognizable character on the earth.
Yeah, exactly. So I could believe that, man.
More than Jesus?
Yeah, well, he said third. He said third,
I said 3rd or 4th, dude.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
If you get outside of the U.S. where people don't know about God.
Colonel Sanders is, I think, on there.
Yeah, KFC's pretty huge everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Like excluding religious characters, like you have Mickey Mouse and Mario, and Spider-Man is like 3rd.
Yeah, you have Trump as well. These days, people are really talking about that Trump guy.
And
Yeah,
I
he said recognizable, not liked.
Jeff Goldblum.
Spider-Man could outsell God of War if only we knew how many God of War actually sold, as Sony seems to be not telling us.
Yes,
They don't tell us
Sony.
everything else
Yeah,
apart from how much it sold. I don't know
Fucking
why.
up our bets, Sony.
And releasing engagement numbers for Detroit Become Human.
That was funny.
Oh.
That was
I'm like, isn't that ironic?
ooh.
That's we might as well look at that metric as it bombed, in it. Like if that's what you're talking about, if you talk about like engagement numbers and the number of conversations in the game, like fuck that, forget it.
Yeah,
You know
like
what I love
they
about that
literally.
comment?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, when they read that comment, what I heard is, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that let this game to their friends.
Yeah, man, because like it's like God of War. It was like what 3 days, and they released the number. But then what's it called? Detroit's like, oh, over 1.5 or 1.7 million people played this game or something. I don't know what they said. Forgot the wording, but it's like, they're sounding like the green box.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's move on here. This is more of a comment we got, but I want to turn it into a question because I think it'll be a good one. Particularly since Riku's here. All right, so this is from Cambon Williams. He goes, I would like you guys to tell us how all these Japanese developers fell out of prominence to begin with. Capcom and Konami used to be like EA and Activision, and Japanese games did not used to be niche. What happened?
So you want me to start it off?
Yeah, go ahead, Riku. I mean, I have my answers too. I think we all have opinions on this, but yeah, let's start off with you.
A lot of us lived through this.
Yes, exactly, bro.
Fucking hell. I think if you had to wrap it up into one word, it would have to be tradition. But even then, I would say it would be more of a corruption versus tradition and greed. So those are the like main words that come to mind when like it's either tradition, they don't want to grow, and the games stays the same, and it people don't really play it anymore because it is old. But that's not many of the Japanese games. Usually, if they stay the same, people like it, like Super Mario. Corruption, as far as corruption and greed are interchangeable as far as them just either being lazy. Like the biggest example I can probably think of right now is Dynasty Warriors 9. They're a Japanese company, and they're just money grubbing, lazy bastards when it came to that game. And Konami, do we really even have to say anything? Capcom is, trying to make their way back up there, but last generation they were not like, they were basically how we see EA now. That's how we saw Capcom last generation. So it's just like, yeah, it's definitely out of all of those words, that's how I would probably put greed above all. It's a greed thing. They fell out of quality to nickel and dime you and just give you not a good product. So I'll leave it right at that right now until you guys have some stuff to say, and then I'll chime in here and there.
Yeah, quickly, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Damien, who's joining us in the chat. He says,
Damien.
Yeah, he says that because gaming has outgrown Japan, Japanese games need to grow up. And Seth says what hurt it is because they started becoming like Western games. Interesting.
I wouldn't agree with that, because when you look at games like Nier Automata, they're like super Japanese, and that was the game that saved Platinum Games. So I don't think it. You got to define what do you mean by grow up, because even the games that are Japanese that are one could say catered towards children, Super Mario is still one of the best selling games when they do release.
Yeah, and so I don't think games like Fatal Frame are for children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I want him to define what he means by grow up.
Yeah. Anyway, while we do that, Brett, I know you want to jump in, so go ahead.
It's like you know me or something. Okay, so I'm interested in whether you agree with this, because I saw all of this happen. Gather round, youngins. I saw all of this happen with my very own eyes. Here's basically what happened. Japanese games in the early days were known for being very high quality, meticulous games most of the time. And the American market was more up and down. Sometimes you got good games, sometimes you got really bad games. More often than not, you got really bad games. So Japanese games were generally synonymous with being high quality. Unfortunately, Japanese development studios and culture and their view of tradition led to a severe lack of innovation. So we saw a lot of piggybacking and the same ideas being reused over and over and over again until it had distilled down into a very kind of restrictive art form / gameplay form. You didn't really see a whole lot of new and innovative things happening. And when you did, it was awesome, but they always beat the band to do it. And then all of a sudden, and this was after we had moved into 3D, you saw a lot of American developers popping up, taking their cues from big Hollywood movies. Flashy, explosions, quick, not a whole lot of story or depth, but a lot of running and gunning and killing and things like that. And this presented a fresh alternative to what a lot of the Japanese games had become, and became so wildly successful that the tables turned and Japanese gamers or developers started imitating Western developers. And ironically enough, what's happened then since then is that we've fallen into the same thing on the Western side, where every game is kind of derivative of itself or another game, and we're not seeing a whole lot of innovation. And this is driving customers back into the Japanese market because of their original traditional values. They've held on to some of those remnants of what classic games used to be. And so it feels like a kind of return to true form, or return to the heydays of gaming, and kind of building back on that and undoing all the Transformer Michael Bay bullshit that we've done to video games in the last 10 years. And that's what's really feeding a lot of this new niche interest and growing popularity of Japanese studios, is because, again, it's something fresh as opposed to the same derivative bullshit that's been cloned over and over and over again. So basically what's happening now in reverse.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you when it comes to innovation. Back in the day, man, Japanese companies like the Capcoms, the Nintendos, the Konamis, man, innovation was like the main word you could use for them. Anytime you saw their name on something, you would fucking know that you're about to get something unique, cool, fun, different. But nowadays, it's either the franchises you remember that are still doing their thing and they're fine, like Mario, the franchises that aren't here anymore, and you wish they still were, but they've been ran to the floor by the companies, or the new stuff that come out, like you said, just not really even like paying homage to the unique Japanese games of the past, but the recent Western games of today, and not even doing it right, and that sucks.
Yeah, for me, it's a couple of things. Basically, one, obviously, back in the day, Japanese games were the biggest games because they were the only ones in town. Back in the day, Western games were generally shit. It was even like a popular Japanese phrase, like Western games are shit, and it was true. Even I'm speaking about for me, I believe that as well. Like I barely owned any Western games back in the day. I think Tomb Raider was like the only one, and I started noticing a shift. I would say in the middle of the PS2 era, where I'm looking at my collection, like, I have more Western games than Japanese games. What's going on here? Because again, I was always over that mindset. I'm like, Japanese games are just better. Western games are shit. But what happened with Japan is, I don't think they took the leap into 3D very well. I've noticed a lot of games. There's exceptions, obviously, like Final Fantasy, Super Mario, stuff like that. But in general, like when they made the leap to 3D, it didn't seem like they got it right. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be honest. I think they finally got it right last year. That's when Japanese games really started coming back into prominence, right? But basically, and you guys know this about the Japanese, they're very much on tradition, right? So once they found a formula that works, they stuck with it. Because in the early days, obviously, gaming was still like a new thing. It was like pioneers, basically. You had to just come up with all these crazy ideas. But once they found stuff that worked, they stuck with it, and they never bothered to evolve past it. Even when Westerners finally got their shit together and started making quality games, and the Japanese also have this stigma. Even though some of them do try to make Western games, they're like, we don't need to really cater to those people. They've finally gotten over that, right? Now we're at the point where Japanese games are biggest games. Look at what's one of the biggest games out this year, right? Monster Hunter, right? Biggest selling game out there for Capcom and stuff. You got Street Fighter kicking ass, Resident Evil's kicking ass. So they're finally coming back into things. But yeah, I think for like a good 20 years, they just fell off because they weren't trying to innovate, And I don't know what it is. I want somebody to do like a study on this. Like, what is it about going to 3D that hurt these Japanese games traditionally? I don't really understand that. But this is not off topic, but Manny, you sent us a video a couple weeks ago talking about why Japanese games are coming back.
Yes.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I want that explained why they fell off and why they're coming back.
Well, at least from what they said, one of the things that they said in the thing was that it had to kind of do with the fact that one of the portions of it was the fact that the pure on Japanese console, the PlayStation 3, was not doing anything in Japan. So it kind of and it was also notoriously difficult to develop for. So that's where a lot of it kind of fell off there. If you notice, a lot of the games in that era, the games that were developed by Capcom, Konami, and they were games that were trying to attract Western audiences, where they're farming out these games to Western studios. But those games never didn't do very well because of one issue where it's like a lot of those games had a lot of cooks in the kitchen, which didn't allow for them to excel. Well, you get games that are just like, it's kind of like a weird by the numbers sort of game, or you get that lousy Bionic Commando game. I think the one of the we kind of like to look at a lot of our old games with a lot of nostalgia, but if you remember, a lot of those older games are also incredibly derivative. How many versions of Street Fighter 2 have you played? How many versions of all those other games over there? They were just as cheap then as they are now. The only time I feel like maybe the time that they really had to kind of work to kind of push themselves was when they actually started getting out of that era of the two-dimensional game. But still, even all the way up to the previous Monster Hunter games, those games were done on the cheap. Every single one of those games was literally an add-on to the previous version that was made on PlayStation 2. It was literally a PlayStation 2 game that they kept on harping on all the way up through Wii, and until Monster Hunter World finally came around. They actually had to do the whole damn thing again.
Yeah, and it's funny because a game like Monster Hunter World could have easily come out last generation, but they didn't want to do that.
It could have easily have come out last generation, but the thing is, the investment that needed to go into making a full Monster Hunter from scratch was huge, and I think that's why they were not in those days. They were not willing to make that sort of investment.
I would agree with that, but like the thing that throws me every time is, why haven't we seen a mainline Pokemon game on the console yet?
You want to know why
we're about to get one. We're about to get one, and it's for
Why haven't you seen a mainline Pokemon game on the console? The plain and pure reason is because, number one, Pokemon games are crazy cheap to make. Number one. And the amount of money they make off of those games is insane. So you have a light investment, and then you get huge paybacks, and that's what's happening. That happened also for a lot of games too, where it was like they're trying to put out these kind of weak titles and trying to maximize as much money as they can pull out of you. So they throw a shitload of microtransactions and things on top of it to try to justify how much they spent on it.
Plus, it's the one that sells the system, like the 3DS or the DS or the GameCube or the Game Boy. It's like that's what sells its system. It's the biggest seller.
Yeah, but Manny, the reason Pokemon hasn't been on consoles for now is for the same reason Monster Hunter hasn't been updated, because they make it on the cheap. They're just like
they totally make it on the cheap. They totally make those games.
And also because Game Freak had that weird thing like, no, Pokemon is the pocket monsters. It can only be.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, that right there, it shows you, like, at least, even if that's even partially true, that shows you the mindset of traditionalism in some of these developers. Like, no, it means pocket monster.
Also, not to mention, that is not all Game Freak's motto. That is Pokemon Company.
No, yeah. Well, okay, that's Pokemon Company. Yeah, it's a good distinction, but that is but it goes back to what we were talking about. They're very traditional when it comes to sort of like, hey, it's pocket monsters. It can only be in your pocket. No one go, hey guys, what if we put it on a real system? It's like, no, we can't do that. It's just pocket monsters. Yeah,
essentially they're still doing the same thing. You can stick a fucking Switch into your pocket if you have a big pocket.
They are, but it's one of those things. Like, there are so few instances that you can point to and be like, that is a cutting off your nose to spite your face kind of moment. And when they said, when Pokemon Company really doubled down on, no, it's pocket monsters, we just don't want to see it on a console because then it would be pocket monsters. That's a perfect example of that makes no sense. That's just sticking to your guns for no good reason. And,
by the way, and then there's a Pokemon Stadium and a Pokemon Snap,
but those weren't actual Pokemon games.
And then they were on.
I know. It makes
Carlos, you're pulling hairs out, bro. He's talking about real Pokemon games.
I'm talking about real Pokemon games too. I played them.
It ain't real, motherfucker.
But see, that's my point. Like, and it's a kind of, we all forget sometimes, and maybe this isn't the best thing to say, but it is also kind of the best thing to say. we all forget sometimes in our pursuit that we're all the same, that we are all the same, but cultures view things in different ways. That's the idea of a foreign culture. It's not even necessarily like, oh, that's somebody else in a xenophobic kind of way. In the literal sense of the word, like it is a culture that is foreign to you. So you can't. We can sit here all day and kind of tell you like, oh, it's this weird kind of traditionalist. You do what your people have done before you kind of vibe, but like, it's the difference between two cultures. America's culture is go big, go splashy, go as loud and bright and fast as humanly possible. Japan has a long-standing culture of walking ways that have been successful for you and building off of things that have been successful before that. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's each of these unique facets serves the gaming industry in different ways at different times. So to a certain extent, it may sound like we're oversimplifying, like, oh, Japanese people in there, they love tradition. That's not what we're saying, but at the same time, you could almost be saying that because it's not going to make sense to a lot of people.
But again, why? But again, why reinvent the wheel if it's working for you? And that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
That's why there were 20,000 Monster Hunter games that they released for the PSP and for the DS and for the current thing, because those things are because they didn't need to spend a lot of money on it and they got so much out of it. That's part of what was happening in Japan. The mobile market over there is insane. Yeah. So what are they investing in? They're like, okay, so why are we spending millions of dollars on these games when we can literally put out a game that's essentially the equivalent of a game from 1985 on a cell phone and make millions more?
Well, that's my point. It's a very American idea to be like, let's make it bigger, louder, faster, and prettier. And some people are like,
for us, the only company that really does that and is Japanese has that mindset is Square. Bigger, louder, faster.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of Square has been very kind of savvy as where they can kind of put their thing on. They try to maximize how many places they put it, but even they didn't have a lot of faith in their own games, which is why they pretty much bought a Western company just on the occasion that their games didn't continue to do well in the States.
Well, I was talking about back in the heyday when everybody had Square at the top. When they pioneered basically a lot of stuff.
They did a lot of it was a lot of spending because everybody was on there. But you look at it like everybody even in Japan and in the United States, everybody had a PlayStation at the time, so that's why they went. And I think that's part of this reason. I also think why, we're talking about Pokemon. Why that thing happened. Why they're making a Pokemon game for the Switch is because of the plain fact that it's got such a high saturation, so they could not do that.
And it's also kind of still a portable game too.
And it's still them having their cake and eating it as well.
Yeah. Anyway, Chris, get in here, man. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the economics of it were a little simpler. I mean, gaming really came about in the 80s when we were kids, right? Like you, me, like we remember that stuff. And the thing is, like, as we grew older, as the gaming community of the 80s grew older, Japan didn't put out anything different, but US developers did.
Yeah, hold on a second. Riku, man, can you mute yourself? You're making noise back there, bro.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so go ahead, Chris.
And so while they were still giving us like cartoony characters are jumping around and stuff, somebody was like, hey, these guys' balls have dropped now. Maybe we'll put sexy characters in there, or maybe may have them shoot demons and blow their heads off and all sorts of shit. And then that's when things started turning around for Western development, because they started making the edgier stuff that was more violent or had more like sexual content, while Japan was still making the same things they were making in the 80s. They were being safe and traditional. And Western comes, well, how do we check these guys? I don't want to fucking look at tits. Okay, all right. These guys got hair in their nuts now. Show them something. Okay, and I think that is where the economics of it's shifted. And then
Yeah.
we were playing those games, so the younger generation that was coming along playing games, they wanted to play that too. They're like, "Oh, that kid's playing Mortal Kombat. I want to play Mortal Kombat, or I want to play Doom, all that stuff." So that's when the mindset started changing.
That's a good point, because that whole kawaii cutesy culture doesn't really translate into American culture very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Not really. It's weird.
Except for Baby Metal.
You know.
Baby metal.
Yeah, Brian, you have any thoughts on this, man?
I don't really, because I can't really pinpoint why. But just looking at Capcom and what they did last gen, I'd say that they just followed the route of Western developers, but they didn't do it right. Because Capcom had a really bad habit of screwing over the games last gen, with Street Fighter 4 and whatnot. They were just like, "Hey, we'll give you the game and we'll have all the DLC, but the DLC will be on disc." And then I think that hurt them a lot. But in terms of what they did prior, I can't put a finger on it. And Konami just shit the bed. So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
the thing is, the reason I wanted to bring you in here is because a lot of these guys in the chat are actually bringing up Lost Planet as a example of a Japanese game gone wrong because it tried to be too Western.
I don't know. I mean, that was. I mean, that game did pretty well. I mean, I can't.
Not in the end, not really.
Well, I mean,
it did all right. It didn't do all that great, and yeah, it was trying to bring the Monster Hunter formula to the Western guys, because effectively they did try to bring the Monster Hunter formula there, in that you had giant monsters, you have 4-man team, different weapons and loadouts, but just much simpler, third-person shooter. So of course, back then, last gen, third-person shooters were all the rage. So they were trying to bring it to a Western format, but it just didn't quite stick. And then the third one, I don't know what happened with that one, and they just lost the plot.
Isn't Metal Gear essentially a Western game, kind of?
Yeah, and Metal Gear games actually do better here than they do in Japan, which is interesting.
It's a lot of Japanese developers have straight up admitted that they used to be the creators and the creative force behind games, but then Western games started really picking up and leading the market, and so now they take the influence of Western games and specifically design them. I mean, that's not conjecture. A lot of Eastern developers will tell you that. They'll straight up say, yeah, we came with all kinds of innovation, and then we kept doing that same thing, and then Western games came along, did a whole bunch of flashy new shit, pulled the market away from us, and now we're kind of following them. But that's not even a bad thing, in the sense that the way that they look at it is, we had been doing all the stuff that was successful, and then we saw all the things that Western games were doing successful, and now we're trying to find a way to integrate them together. So they're still trying to innovate, but again, a lot of Japanese developers, they're very safe. They want to work on things that have been proven successful, whether it's things that they've done in the past that are successful, or things that they've seen other people do that are successful, and then find a way to put a new spin on them. Before the podcast, we were just talking about how every anime is set in high school. There's a reason for this shit.
Yeah.
Well,
by the way, just quickly, Hideki Kamiya said something along those lines. At a speech, he was like, "Yeah, guys, we're falling behind. The Japanese developers are falling behind to the Westerners because we're not innovating." He flat out said that. Go ahead, Carlos.
a lot of people in that era were saying that.
Yeah, and by that era, we're
Kojima and
this was This was literally 5 years ago too, so people understand.
Think about this: when BioShock came out, Hideo Kojima complimented it, and the rest of them were pearl clutching, "Oh, he said BioShock has great storytelling." Yeah, because he could recognize it was doing something different, but they didn't want to hear that, right? They don't look outside themselves a lot for innovating. You can't innovate in a box, right?
Yeah,
and that's what happens with Japanese developers. They don't look outward.
Mm-hmm. And also, we're talking about a guy who essentially reinvented his franchise 5 different times.
Right.
Maybe maybe more than that. 7 times.
Wasn't he successful pretty much every time he did?
Yeah, because he changed up the formula enough each time. No Metal Gear game is essentially the same as the last.
Yeah, they're all different. By the way, Brett, Master Shake says, but Brett, the ones that are doing the best right now are those that are not following the West. He's talking about Persona, Nier, Tales of, and Yakuza. He's right. No, there are. Yeah,
they're games that are uniquely Japanese, and that's also one of the issues that happened in the past too, where they were trying to be too American or too Western. And it just, like, the biggest example of this I could see was that one game that was trying to be like Gears of War.
I remember that. But going back to what Brett, what you were saying though, it's like now that Western games are becoming kind of derivative, the Japanese games are all of a sudden looking like innovative, you know, in comparison.
It's like you stumbled across an ancient village full of like people that are strong in the old blood. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like it's a small isolated community that has held on to things that have become foreign to a lot of gamers because you haven't seen them in so long. But for other people, it's a return to formula that, you know, some of the things that made us love gaming in the first place. So you are definitely seeing a resurgence in the interest of Japanese games. But I'm not going to say that's because they're innovative. We also saw a resurgence in the interest of retro games. It's not because they're innovative. They're not new. They're just new to you.
Yeah, and people, you know, maybe they're tired of the newer stuff. They want to go back to the original stuff, the old blood shit, like you said.
Yeah,
you know?
like me.
Yeah, see, there you go, man. There you go. All right, let's move on here to I'll watch that. This is something we talked about before, but I'm going to take a little bit of a twist on it. But let me ask it now, and I'll tell you guys what the twist will be. What would Sega have to do to thrive if they came out with a new console? The twist is, because usually we go, listen, Sega can't make it in the industry now, stop it. Let's actually roll with it. What could they actually do to make a successful new system in 2019? I have one already. One of the big three needs to go. You can't have 4 systems. And out of all of them that are out now, the only one that looks like they could step out of the race without hurting the larger gaming industry is Xbox. You know,
well, and Sony has the most similar market to Xbox. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be poetic, wouldn't it? So
cyclical, right?
So the first thing that needs to happen is somebody needs to bow out, and it should probably be Microsoft. Hell, Microsoft should probably help Sega make their new system. You know what I'm saying?
I don't even know that it would be a bow out situation. I don't think you're ever going to see somebody not forced out of the industry. And I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but let's talk some real talk numbers here real quick, people. Like, if Xbox has about 35 million units in the wild,
you're being generous with that 35 million.
I know I am.
Go ahead.
How many has Switch sold since its launch?
20 million.
20. Yeah. Okay. And that's been how long now?
A year, a little over a year. Months. Yeah, 16 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So by the 3-year mark, Microsoft is set to be eclipsed by what most people consider a glorified, downgraded iPad. And it's funny because Microsoft has tried to make games or be innovative in their storytelling, and it didn't work because they were beat out by a system more powerful than them. So they went to make a system more powerful. Now they're being beaten out by a system significantly less powerful than them. So it's everywhere you turn in Microsoft's eyes, there's fire a-burning in the forest. So it kind of leads to be a big problem. And you could be saying I'm saying crazy talk here, but let's talk real numbers. The one that is really limping along and barely surviving here is the Xbox. And 3 years ago, you would have told me that, I would have laughed in your goddamn face. But things have changed dramatically. And a lot of it doesn't even have to do with the shortcomings of Microsoft, but it has to do with the success of the Switch and the reality that the market can't really hold, 3 super successful systems. And 3 systems is a good place, in my opinion. That's the best place for the market to be. It puts a lot of competition out there. It creates some excellent games. But, I mean, you're talking about Xbox, Microsoft, a system which is being eclipsed by a new system that doesn't have the library, that doesn't have the online service, and it's closing the gap so quickly. It's mind-boggling. So you can't say that Microsoft being booted out of the race would be completely unfeasible. You can't.
Yeah, I just want to disagree with one point you said. Switch does have the games. They do have the library. They have more exclusives than Xbox. Just got to throw that out there.
Yeah, but they don't have a lot of as many. When we're talking sheer number of games, there are more games available on the Xbox.
By the way, Damien, he's $10 billion. Yeah, we're not talking about Microsoft, the company. We're talking about just the Xbox division. We're not talking about all of Microsoft. Microsoft is perfectly fine. We're talking about the Xbox division.
Here's the thing, like, you know, a lot of times they've heard this heard this before, where it's like, you know, if Microsoft decided to drop the Xbox, they could easily do it, and
it wouldn't even hurt them. It wouldn't even hurt them.
Really hurt them.
You know, it wouldn't even hurt them.
But I mean, I definitely think if they were to drop out of the race, I would think that they would probably be the most plausible one. But who knows?
But anyway, let's get back to
when you talk about that Sega is closest to what Microsoft is. So if there was anybody that would swing in and dethrone Microsoft by doing what they do, sharing in their small competitive space of the market, it would be Sony. So where this whole thing becomes relevant is, I think everybody's saying, if Sega came in, they would have to topple Microsoft. That would be the first thing they do, and they'd have to take their place.
Yeah, I guess we could all agree with this, right? We can't have 4 successful systems. It could only be 3, right? That's where I'm coming at it from, at least.
I mean, I guess we could. We've just never seen it happen, and it seems like we hit full saturation at 3.
Yeah, so let's stick with that. So, you know, Microsoft, let's just say for the sake of argument, they help Sega make their new console, right? And you get Halo or whatever on the Sega system, right? Which will be good. You know, you get some exclusives on there. The next thing is Sega, and here's the thing. This is where it always comes back to it. The people that are like, you know, I guess wistful about the Dreamcast stuff don't realize that Sega doesn't exist in 2019, right? They don't exist now. So you would need, I'm not saying bring back the old heads. You need to get some new injection of developers in there to bring back those type of quality titles that we used to get. You need that. I don't know where the hell you're going to find them, but you also need that. You need some new blood. You can't have the current Sega guys, you know, but my point is, like, the current Sega guys, even though they're doing pretty okay nowadays, right? They're not capable of a big system the way the old Sega was. I think we could all agree on that too. We need some new blood in there. That's the next thing. Go ahead, guys.
I think you need new blood and old heads.
Both, yes. Guide them, you know. And it doesn't have to be old heads from Sega either. It could be from other companies.
No. And one of the cool things about something that would relaunch this far from the original is you actually have people who were fans of the original, who have grown up, who've gotten into the industry inspired by those childhood loves, who now roll around and could be, you know, those would be the people applying to Sega, is the people who played Sega games as a kid. So you would see some commitment and some love come back in there, more so than you would, you know, if you try to reinvent the company 10 or 15 years later, kind of thing.
Yeah, you need the games, obviously. You need third-party support. That's what kind of hurt the Dreamcast in the end. EA was not on there.
Online. As much as I hate to say it, because they pretty much invented online gaming, they'd have to prove a viable online service pretty quickly.
Yeah, and my other concern is, like, how do we make this system not whatever the fuck Atari's doing? Because that thing's a joke. You know, this has to be like an actual, real, modern system. It can't be just some bullshit, you know?
The mottos and the ideas that drove Sega should be the things driving this theoretical new system. Because Sega was always, of the systems out there, and this is where Microsoft kind of picked up, they always tried to be a little bit edgier. They always tried to be a little bit darker. They always tried to be, you know, not quite so cutesy. So, and there are a lot of games that definitely push that line right now. And I'm not sure that 90s extreme attitude would work, but you'd have to be a little bit more daring than the other companies, because that's kind of what Sega always did.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. Master Shake says Sega could go full portable or hybrid and survive as the 4th console. That's an interesting thought. I didn't consider that. That's interesting. You know, like maybe just ape with whatever the Switch is doing. It's like, yeah, you could portable or play it on your TV.
Damien, you seem to forget. He's saying you guys seem to forget that the Dreamcast failed under one of the best gaming CEOs, but you seem to forget that we started this whole segment by saying we don't think Sega would ever come back.
Yeah, no, Sega would never come back. I just want to get that out there.
Sega's hypothetical.
All hypothetical. You know.
Also, we didn't forget that, but Sega of America was toothless in the overall global company. That most of those decisions came from Japan. So the decision to need to sell 20 million units in 1 year in like '99 in the holiday didn't come from Peter Moore or whoever. It came from Japan. Like so, can't say like, oh well, he was great. He was toothless in that job.
Yeah,
Can I add-
Peter Moore didn't do anything for the Dreamcast. Let's just be real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanna-
Well, no, he actually did. He actually did make it a little bit more of a success within the United States. It was in better standing.
Yeah,
It
but
was in better
overall, yeah.
standing in the United States than it was in the West than it was in actual Japan.
But he didn't cause its failure, right?
No,
like
he didn't.
No.
They tasked him with something that was impossible to achieve.
You know, something that also seems to be forgotten on his part is that a huge portion of it was the PlayStation basically having a price war with Sega, and PlayStation was backed by Sony's incredible manufacturing abilities and that type. So Sony could produce everything in-house, where Sega had to produce things other house. It's like playing a game of poker when somebody goes all in and they put in 10 times the amount you have in front of you, and they automatically win by default. So Sony pushed Sega into a price war until the point where Sega basically had to take a massive loss on each system sold.
Right.
The system was a wild success. It was such a wild success that when they took a hit on each system sold, it fucking bankrupted them.
Yeah. Well, Sony took a hit also having the lowest cost DVD player in Japan at the time. That was also a video game console.
And that's really what I think. That was the main thing for success on Sony's part. So Sega failed, but like, and I realize that we all probably sound like a bunch of old fanboys here, but Sega really didn't fail on its own legs. Like, Sega was put in a really bad position where there was essentially no success, and that was, you got to give credit to Sony at that point. Like, they were fucking ruthless and kicked them out of the market. But this whole thing is based on the idea that the market reached critical saturation at 3 systems. That's why this whole thing happened.
Yeah. By the way, Damien is right though. The PlayStation 2 was more expensive than the Dreamcast. Dreamcast was cheap.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, Dreamcast was. Remember the price? $199.99, and we're gonna sell it on $99.99.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like, Sega was having a price war, and they were determined to come in lower than the Dreamcast or than the PlayStation because they didn't have a DVD player.
Yeah, and that was the thing back in the day of those things. People could only afford one system, right? So yet that Sony made the choice harder because it's like, oh, this also has a DVD player, so you don't need to have anything else in your living room.
Yeah, not only that, it was, even though the system was $300, it was the cheapest DVD player on the market. Yeah,
Right.
And nobody had a DVD player at that point.
No one did. Yeah, you're right about
It's
that.
not like you already had 2 things that could play DVDs. You're like, oh shit, I need to get a DVD player.
Me and Tony had.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I did. My DVD player was
Shut up,
ridiculous.
nerds.
By the way,
And Tony, you were in the cutting edge of technology.
yeah, man, back in the day, hell yeah, son.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I used to,
Well, the thing is that we got the cheapest ones, but at the time,
it was still
I mean,
more.
but back in the day, the cheap was not that cheap.
Yeah, exactly. But
no,
I
it
still
was around $200.
I don't know. Did 3DO?
no, my shit cost almost like $400, dude. Back
No.
then, you know, that shit.
Well, 3DO did not. They had a format that they could use to play movies, but then they were trying to get into that. But then they were.
Yo, my shit,
that
my.
But they were essentially trying to do what Xbox is currently doing, the all-in-one thing, and kind of trying to be less of a game console and more of an entertainment system, sort of idea where it's like everything you can do there. You watch movies, you play games, stuff like that.
Yeah, by the way, fun fact, because my DVD player cost so much, I never ever used my PS2 to watch movies. I'm like, nope, I paid for that shit. I'm watching movies on that. You know?
It was probably a better player too.
Oh, it was. It looked way better than the PS2. You know? That shit was legit, son. But anyway, by the way, I'm kind of already losing the plot here. I'm like, what else
back
could...
Back to Sega.
No, it's not that. It's like I'm losing them. I'm like, I don't know what else could... Because, again, I don't believe this could happen. You know, I don't believe this could happen.
Sega would have to come out with a system that introduced a new video format that became the mainstream.
But that didn't work for Sony with the PS3. Remember, that shit bit them in the ass. They were like, hey, we had a DVD player on PS2. That helped us sell a lot. So we have a Blu-ray player on PS3. That's going to help us sell even more. That backfired on them big time, you know? So,
not really, because Microsoft was pushing HD DVRs at that point, and Blu-ray did become the industry standard.
Yeah, but...
No, they were not. They did not.
They didn't push it.
They didn't push anything. They didn't make a full-on decision. They could have decided to put an HD DVD player in there a long time ago, but they didn't. They were selling an external DVD player. HD DVD player because they didn't want to put their hand in a full hat at the time. But to be honest, if they did make that sort of decision, they probably wouldn't have had to have 3 discs for a game.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just going with the new media format, I don't think it's gonna work. It didn't really help Sony with the PS3. You know,
I don't think you need a new video format because after Blu-ray, things should just go digital.
yeah, no one buys these things unless it's guys like Carlos. Nobody buys movies anymore. Nobody gives a shit. You know,
I buy movies. What are you talking about?
you don't buy nothing.
So, what you talking about? Should the question become like, is there anything Sega could do?
No.
I say Sega's strongest aspect would be to put out a bunch of first party titles, kind of essentially cloning what Nintendo does, reminding you why you want to play a Sega console again.
They got to bring back all of them. Like
All
they got
of
to take
them.
Sonic back. Sonic Mania 2 only on the next Sega console. Like
and-
New Streets of Rage, New Daytona, bring back all those franchises.
And the other thing, obviously, they have to pull essentially all their different lines from every single other company.
Now here's
in other words, say like Persona is only on Sega.
Damn.
that would be a heavy. That would be a heavy hitter.
Now, Manny, here's my question.
Every Atlas game essentially is only a Sega exclusive.
Yeah, Manny, here's my question though. Do you think it would hurt them monetarily? Like, don't you get more money if your game is on more systems?
Oh yeah, you would totally make more money on. That's why they stopped. That's part of the reason why they stopped making.
That goes back to my point. I'm like, why would Sega make a new system when they can make way more money right now? You know,
in the long run, they would make more money off of either hardware sales or the online infrastructure, microtransactions.
The Sega network, right, Brett? Hey, bring that shit back.
The fucking
Sega channel.
Sega channel, yes.
Sega channel, yeah.
Bring that
The
shit
Sega
back.
channel, like, I don't know, man. That would, in today's market, that would still blow my mind in terms of I'd be like, hold on. It's like an on-demand service where I can just stream like hundreds of games for free.
You
right
mean
now.
PlayStation Now?
Yeah, but more complete. Like, dude, like Sega Channel, like, was mind-boggling. The number of games was. It seemed like, as a kid, I was like, this is like every game I've ever heard of, minus like 3 games.
Yeah, but to be honest, the Sega Channel, we already have that in the form of other things. It's not anything special. It was back in the day. Now it's everybody's doing it.
They would have to pull so much away from everything else. They would have to make sure
And
that.
I think a smart move would they just need to fucking. They can make it a timed exclusive too for like 2 years for each of the games.
Just
They have to take and eat it too.
I mean,
a working virtual console.
the thing is that I think again, it's like it would, it obviously would make them more money if they have them on different consoles. But that's like saying that's that's like saying, okay, yeah, you just have a Sony game just show up on an Xbox for just no reason. Then you don't get that sort of that cutoff where it's like, okay, what are the reasons why I should own this thing other than the name that the thing has?
Yeah, you got to have games because you remember you're selling this stuff to not just people like us, but like the new cats. You know, got to sell it to them.
I know there are a lot of people throw around that kind of this thing is having exclusives are anti-consumer and all kinds of stuff like that. But these are the things that get you to make that investment on those consoles. This means keeping Halo on an Xbox or the Microsoft universe, keeping these games on their specific things, so that there are reasons for customers to specifically go seek out their console. Because it's not like video game consoles are not like freaking VCRs. VCR tapes work, VCR DVD players. There's no cutoff. It's like some tapes don't work on some DVDs don't work on other DVDs. They all work on the same thing. If it was a world like that where we essentially video game companies make the video games, and then it doesn't matter what console you're playing for, but then you don't have that sort of cutoff. Then it goes back to like Sony making DVD players again. You know what I mean? Or then that would be Microsoft making a DVD player as well. So they have to give everybody and give people whoever's looking into this console, they have to give them reasons to do it. So that means locking down all those titles that they usually do. For everything else, locking down all those Atlas games, locking down all those things. Maybe you can call back 2K and be like, yo, exclusive. Your games are now, like how they used to do it. They used to be 2K, Sega 2K, right?
And then they dropped the biggest ball of them all, Sonic Adventure 3, baby.
Riku.
Let's fucking go. That's how you get Riku on that next Sega console, man.
But the flip side of the coin of what Manny's talking about, though, is then people start worrying about things like brand image and customer loyalty and things like that. Like, when you are worrying about building exclusives for a game, you want to make it the kind of thing that continue. You want it to be an evergreen title. You want it to be a game that people continually go back and play, that they talk about. You want it to be one of the high watermarks of gaming, if at all possible. It's not just the same incentives for a multi-plat that a lot of developers seem to have of go out there, build as much hype as possible, grab as much money as possible, and then run off into the fucking sunset with a half-baked game or something that ends up mediocre. There's a certain amount of love that goes into exclusives that you generally don't see in other titles. And this is probably more in the past than today. But for all those people out there screaming that, exclusives are anti-consumer, like, when there were more exclusives, I felt like we had more quality titles, at least compared to the rest of the games. Like, exclusives always stood out head and shoulders amongst the other games.
Well, I mean, they didn't need to think about it working on other consoles, stuff like that. So it works for this thing. You don't need to try to optimize it. It's just like, okay, yeah, it just works on this thing. So yeah, that's at least my take on it. Like, where you would have to just lock it down.
Yeah. All right, I want to move on, man. We got Mr. Richard Bailey Jr., man. All right, so he wants to know, what do y'all think of The Walking Dead's Negan being added to Tekken 7, and what other characters do you think they will add as DLC? Before we move on, that is not a troll question. That was actually announced tonight. Negan from The Walking Dead is going to be one of the new characters in Tekken 7 as part of Season 2. This is not a joke.
Oh, wow.
Like, bro, anybody can make it into Tekken now, man. Get Fat Albert in there. Make him fight Bobby.
It seems like a qualifier for Tekken should be martial prowess.
Yeah, like,
but that seems to be thrown out the window. Like, yeah, this guy could fight. Like, okay, so you're telling me Negan can throw down with the rest of the Tekken fighters?
Hayachi, like, what?
Yeah, with Kazuya, it's interesting, man. I guess they're taking a page out of like Mortal Kombat's realm. It's like, hey, fuck it, get the Predator in there, get Jason in there.
And those were all like supernaturally strong beings. Not just a jackass with a barbed wire bat.
I mean, Noctis is supernaturally powered, right?
Yeah, he is. Final Fantasy character, Yeah, every Tekken character that's in there makes some kind of sense. But Negan, I'm like, what? Really? I'm like, yo, does Harada just really like The Walking Dead? Is that why Negan made it in there? It's so weird.
Oh, I mean, I think it's also to try to get other people to kind of to get into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a good point, because The Walking Dead franchise overall is already slipping. That might be a good way to, jumpstart it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, and then just to get people to look at, to come in and watch it and play it a little bit. They're fans of this thing. Like, what? It's like, friggin' Darth Vader and Force Unleashed guy were in a Soul Calibur game. What about that?
That made sense, though.
Did it make sense? Come on.
Yeah. Well, they were at least on the same.
Other than the fact that they have swords, like laser swords.
You assume they're trained how to use them. That's all Soul Calibur is. It's people with weapons that know how to use them. That's all it needs to be.
I mean, Yoshimitsu had a beam sword in Tekken. What, 3?
He had it in Tekken, and then he also had it in Soul Calibur. It's like it really, it's obvious that they want to get people's attention, so they're like, all right, let's just put these guys in because it's going to be fucking fun.
Yeah. By the way, Chief told me, he says that Princess Peach is in Smash Brothers, so why can't Negan be in Tekken?
No, I mean, Peach she's a Nintendo game, and Smash Brothers is like a Nintendo game. So
yeah, by the way, I want to give a quick shout out to El Ramos. He goes, yo, what's up, brothers? I usually don't catch a show live, but I wanted to say that you guys make a fantastic show twice a week, especially in this gaming drought right now. Keep up the great work.
Well, thank you.
Thanks,
man.
Brother. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, Negan, I don't know. Interesting. By the way,
I say, why not? You know what?
Why not Daryl? You don't get Daryl in that bitch.
Yeah, why not put Daryl? Here's the thing: if you looked at that little trailer, there's at least 4 question marks in there that they haven't revealed.
Yeah. By the way, one of them is one girl from Tekken 1, and another girl from Tekken 2. I don't know the names. I'm not a Tekken guy.
No, it's Anna, Lei Long, and then it's Negan. That's the ones that they just revealed.
Lei looks nothing like how he used to.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't look anything like him.
I didn't even think that was him. I was like, is this? Wow, it's drunken guy.
Did they try to base him off the comic book version? Then is that because the comic version, this dude is fucking stocked, you know?
No, Lei Long?
No.
No.
Negan.
No, they just showed you a silhouette of him.
Yeah,
and they put up some of his lines.
Okay, so who doesn't look how they're supposed to look?
Lei Long from the original from Tekken 2. He doesn't look like himself anymore. And Anna, she's just Anna from Tekken. She's essentially like Nina, just like she's got slightly different moves.
Oh, this is funny. Chief Tomei says Walking Dead is a form of entertainment. So is Tekken. But yeah, so is Flowers for Algernon. That's entertainment. You're gonna get that guy. Tekken,
Pepsi Man was in Fighters Megamix. You know what I mean? It's the same sort of idea.
Yeah,
it's not like a continuity thing. It's a power level thing. It's like when we were playing Monster Hunter last night.
Hold on, Brett. How much Tekken have you actually played? Out of interest.
I've played pretty good amount through about 3, I'd say. I didn't play that much 4.
Tekken 3 had a character called Dr. Bosconovich. He was literally just a doctor with no power at all.
Yeah, and all he did was lay on the floor.
Yep.
And then there was a dinosaur named Gon.
And then it was Gon the dinosaur.
You don't talk shit on the dinosaur with boxing gloves, all right? He was a badass.
That was Gon, but he was from another thing.
No power.
He was from a manga.
Master Shake says you should have Al Bundy in the game. Hell yeah, let's go, man.
Well, Al Bundy's not in the zeitgeist, see.
He's in my zeitgeist.
Let's get him back into zeitgeist.
Yeah, man, it's got him, man. 4 touchdowns in 1 game, man. Let's go. By the way,
I just feel like you should have some kind of martial training or just be a badass with a weapon or something.
He's got a weapon. He's got a bat. He just smacks things with it.
Yeah,
he's not good with it.
By the way,
he's not a warrior.
He'll probably be a grappler or something.
By the way, just need to throw this out there, because you said that the power levels need to be the same. We have Dragon Ball Fighters with Krillin versus Super Saiyajin Goku. So
he can win.
Yeah, and he can beat him exactly.
He can beat him.
Yeah, Super Vegeta.
You can have Yamcha whip everybody's ass.
Yeah, but I think Brian just said if Tekken could have a doctor who literally doesn't even fight, you could have Negan.
All right, then can I say I would like to see One Punch Man as a game character?
Yeah.
But the thing is that he'll have to do other things other than punch.
No, that's what would make him a great gag character. So
and he'll be banned from all of the tournaments.
Yeah, of course. But then everybody playing will be like, dude, playing Tekken with One Punch Man is really boring. And they're like, yeah, that's the point of One Punch Man.
Well, you could be the equivalent of the Golden Gun.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, in Yakuza, yeah. That's crazy.
So when you're playing, you're like, oh, come on, man, you can't pick One Punch Man. Why not? You know why not.
He goes.
And then the other thing is, you're talking about power levels. So
it doesn't matter. They got a kangaroo in the bitch.
Tekken games, they don't have Tekken games. They don't actually have powers. They just punch each other.
That's what I'm saying. Negan is a mob boss type person. His power is that he's ruthless in a social structure. Alone with the bat, he's not fucking scary. Keep in mind, when he used the bat, everybody was fucking tied up on their knees. He's not a badass.
Brett, I think you're overthinking this, bro. It's a franchise that has fucking kangaroos and bears in it.
Yeah, but okay, no, it boils on this. I don't think Negan can fight.
Okay, fair enough. You're not buying the game anyway, so don't worry about it.
He's getting all bent out of shape. God damn it,
Who gives the fuck,
Yeah, it's just an add-on thing. I mean, games add on non-serious characters. Look at Dan in Street Fighter. He's a joke, but he's a goof on SNK games.
Yeah, he is.
I would have been fine with Daryl. Daryl can fight.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. All right, let's get on here to the last question from Chief Tomei. This is an interesting one. He goes, what do you guys think about the situation with David Cage, and will you support him? in the future. Okay, apparently a little bit of an update, because you remember we talked about this like a month or two ago whenever it happened that Quantic Dream was being accused of like harassment or whatever. A bunch of crazy emails were being sent, had like a bunch of racist shit or whatever. Apparently they lost a court case a couple of days ago, you know. My thing is like, listen, as long as this dude keeps out putting good games, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know anything about this guy personally. All I know is I know his games and I like his games, so I don't really see a reason not to support him unless he's like a real scumbag and I need to see evidence of that. You know what I'm saying? It's an interesting question, you know, but yeah, what do you guys say? I think the critics say it all. Fuck, nobody
I'll
cares.
agree with you. Like, unless he does something like horrendous.
Yeah, he needs to do something really crazy, you know. Then I'll be like, okay, I can't support this guy. But if it's just some stupid emails, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that like, if
for those goddamn emails,
if he was, you know, like if he was sending these sorts of emails, or if it was, you know, I mean, the thing is that I think a lot of times what happens in companies. And this you know, some people send some inappropriate things in the company email, and I've seen it. I've seen my share of stupid stuff, you know, in my inbox when working at certain companies as well. Stuff that is just like, yo, why are you fucking sending this in the frigging company email, dude? You know.
Yeah, Master Shake says Quantic Dreams was never going to win that. They were suing a newspaper saying they can't print a story source from other former employees. Yeah, that's a loss right there. You know, they're reporters. They got to do their job, bro. You can't. Yeah, that's stupid. It's like you're going to sue somebody for doing a story on you?
Well, no, I think that you know, I mean, to be honest, yeah, the lawsuit is kind of a silly lawsuit because it's like the only way they could have done Quantic Dream even had any sort of grounds to do that would be if they had some sort of evidence that these guys managed to get into their company and take this sort of information.
Well, no, because they said it was former employees. Is this just about a breach of an NDA?
I don't know. That's a good question. No. The thing is, they were suing the newspaper for printing that. They weren't suing the employer. No. From what I understand, I could be wrong about that.
Okay. Yeah. I just figured since they were saying from, you know, they couldn't use sources from former employees. I would guess that they're trying to go after the paper saying you can't cite these people because they're under NDA, and the response would be like, yeah, you take it up with those people.
Yeah. But anyway, I need to see something really horrendous from this man in order for me not to buy his games. I enjoy his games, so, you know, I know that's not popular among other gaming journalists, but I like David Cage games, you know.
Can somebody explain to me the correlation between what somebody does professionally and puts out in the public and their darkest skeletons in their personal closet? Like, I know plenty of tattoo artists who are awesome tattoo artists, and they're fucking just fucks of people. Like, you just a waste of space and weight. But they do good tattoos, and so you just go to them and you're like, yeah, I mean, they're a fucker, but look how pretty my tattoo is. Like, I don't understand. Could somebody please explain to me why all of a sudden we're mixing in people's personal business with their professional output?
Yeah, I don't think I feel comfortable answering that on air, to be honest. It's just things are different now, man. Things are very different now. I agree with you. It's like you should separate the person from the work, but it seems like
I mean, I agree with you, Tony. There's a line. Like, you're like, oh my god, that motherfucker eats babies? All right,
yeah,
I really don't want to be giving him money, but I would still financially support somebody who has a different political opinion than mine.
Yeah, of course.
As long as they're not like actively hurting.
As long as he's not kicking dogs, right, Brad? Remember that?
Like, well, I don't want to funnel money to the Koch brothers because they do shitty stuff with their money. But like, you know, if somebody, you know, is like, well, I vote Republican, be like, okay, well, I don't vote Republican, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be like, I'm taking my business elsewhere. Fuck you. Like, since when do we have the moral righteous authority to judge other people, especially when most of the time, like, you can't get down on people for being wrong or ignorant unless they're intentionally choosing to be that way, and unless you're going to take the time out of your day to fucking educate them and make them see the light, which doesn't, by the way, constitute sitting down and yelling at somebody and all sitting down and talking to them like a goddamn human being, which is the opposite of boycotting their business. And it just seems like a no-win scenario to me.
Yeah. By the way, Damien, if you have a question, get it in now because we only got 10 more minutes, bro. Please get it in there. But yeah, I don't. There's things I do want to say, but I
And
don't
no, we're
wanna do
not Sony fanboys.
Yeah.
I already answered your question.
Yes.
Oh,
Let me see. Chief Tomei, the guy who asked this question, goes, "That's fair. Personally, I'll pass on his games. Developers shouldn't be in those type of environments. It's their choice, but I wouldn't give David Cage any money to fuel his toxic BS. And that's your right to. If you don't want to give his money, that's your right to, bro. Nothing wrong with that.
And I absolutely agree with that. Where I'm coming from it is, though, like, what I think should personally happen is, we live in a digital age of LinkedIn and everything like that. Like, this person people should just be vocal about what a shitty boss they are. Like, it's illegal to talk shit on your employees. It's not illegal to talk shit on your boss. It may hurt you, but like, if everybody kind of sits around and is actually open about how people are treating them, then you're going to have trouble getting in quality talent. And when you have trouble getting in quality talent, you're going to have problems producing quality product, and you'll fail on your own. Like, you part of it should be building a quality team. And I think this is probably also me working in the tattoo industry, which is super unregulated. Like, nobody gives a shit. Nobody's coming to help you, or at least in my industry, nobody's coming to help you or give you a golden parachute or tell you you're doing a great job. Like, most of the time, if you're being abused, like, you need to stand up and either not take it, say something, or move somewhere else. And you do so until you find somewhere that you're happy with. I can't understand this idea of just, I understand it's difficult in a power dynamic or an unbalanced power dynamic to stand up and say, this is not how I deserve to be treated. But I don't think that makes it any less necessary. So while, yes, we can all support and root for these people, I think also you can't help somebody if they're not willing to help themselves. So you're talking about you can't write an entire industry for a certain subset of people who are not willing to speak up and endanger their own position. It sucks, but that's the reality of the world.
Yeah, all right. Let's get this in here because we only got a couple minutes here. Damien goes his first question. I'm assuming it's the first question. Guys knock Microsoft first-party companies shit for only making one game, but what about Sony Santa Monica or the Gran Turismo company, also MLB? So he's saying, why are people giving Microsoft companies, like 343 or whatever, give them crap for only making one game when Sony Santa Monica even if Sony Santa Monica makes a bunch of games. I don't know if you're talking about. But Gran Turismo, you're right. What's the name of the names?
Polyphony Studios.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. Who gives these people shit? If they make one game and they do it well, I think people give them shit when the games aren't as good. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think anybody in here has done that. It's like, listen, if you make that same game and you do it well, that's fine.
I mean, maybe he's talking about the company that specializes in Gears of War games and the company that's
specialized. Well, they just started though.
Yeah, they just started those studios. So I mean, like, other than blaming.
I could judge 343 and say, like, hey, Halo 5 Guardians wasn't as good as Reach, right? I don't think they're a studio as up to par as Bungie was. I can critique them because I don't think they made a game as good as Halo was in the past, right? But that's my right. I could criticize the game, right? And honestly, they're like the Yankees of studios. Like, Microsoft spent a lot of money putting together people. They pulled people from Activision and all over the place to make 343. So I'd expect them to really pull together and make something quality, and Halo 5 wasn't it. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure fanboys say that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh yeah, they only make one game, but dude, if they make one game and they do it well, no, we don't give shit to any of these other companies for doing that. So why do it with them? There's plenty of companies out there, even third-party companies, that only make one fucking game. How many other games does the Pokemon company make? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, or what was it? Not Pokemon company.
Game Freak.
Game Freaks. Yeah.
That's it.
He wants to know what games do Sony Santa Monica make? They make a bunch of indie games on top of, like, God of War. God of War is not the only thing they do.
Yeah.
They do pixel junk.
Yeah, they do pixel junk. That's right. I know Demon's probably that don't count. Yeah, it does count. It's still a game.
Fat Princess, was that them?
No, I think that might have been them as well.
Sure, that was them.
Sony also
has... Fat Princess, you're right about that. I'm looking at it now. Everybody, I didn't know they made Everybody's Gotten to the Rapture, or at least they collaborated. They also collaborated with Ready at Dawn for The Order. Damn, that's crazy. But yeah, their main thing is obviously God of War, but they do other games too. Go ahead, Brett.
Sony has more studios too. But part of the reason why it kind of looks like that is Microsoft has a few studios that produce a few main tentpole games. They don't have a lot of other people producing other content as well. Sony has enough studios that they can have entire studios devoted to just making one game and still, as a platform, release new and refreshing content. So, but that's why we were all so excited at E3 when Microsoft announced that it had acquired a whole bunch more studios. Like that bodes well for them. So I can understand it in some people's eyes because it looks like Microsoft as a whole, all of its exclusives tend to fall into games that have been done before. But again, that's not the problem with the studios. That was a problem with the platform that they've addressed recently. So we can expect to see newer and better things.
I think it's a lot of fanboy bullshit. But
yeah, it's fanboy bullshit. Let's just be real.
Yeah. So, hey, man, if you want to delve on that, it's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. All right.
Can
Before,
I just
yeah, go ahead, Brian.
say something like really quick? What's up with Polyphony Digital? And going back on the words, in that they said that they won't be adding microtransaction on GT Sport, and yet they did.
They're
So
hypocrites.
so I just like to say a big fuck you to those guys. And no, that's not cool.
Hey, Hashling and Slasher, we're actually about to wrap up, but I like your question, so I'm going to toss that over to next week. That's a good one, and I don't want to just give you a 2-minute answer because I want to delve into that one for sure. All right, man, I'm going to wrap this up, but before that, Riku, man, anything you want to plug before we wrap up here, man?
Play them Vitas, people.
Plug them Vitas into them PCs and
Hell yeah.
Oh, man, we're not getting into that right now.
We're not getting into that.
You know, all right, man, cool. So let's wrap it up here. So thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section of this episode here on YouTube or over on the Coalition. We'll answer them on next week's show. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Twitch, Mixer, Twitter, Facebook, and Periscope at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, I was your host, Tony Polanco. I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
Metatron chose me.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
Laters.
Brett Murdoch.
Maximum effort.
Brian Manjoma.
Fun fact, the brain is the only organ that named itself.
That is a fact.
Oh, that's deep, man.
And Riku-san won, the only one.
Remember, people, life means Vita, and Vita means life.
Perfect. All right, guys, we'll see you on Thursday, man. Later.
You should have watched WrestleCast.